This is your evening news update for Wednesday, September 1st. A 65-year-old Barbadian woman is the 51st person to die from COVID-19. She passed away on Tuesday after reporting to the Accident and Emergency Department of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. The Ministry of Health reports the deceased woman had comorbidities and was not vaccinated. Meanwhile, the Barbados Santos Public Health Laboratory recorded 40 new cases of the virus out of 1,665 tests. Of these, 29 were 18 years old and over, while 11 were under 18. There are currently 370 people in isolation. Barbados has recorded 5,072 confirmed cases of COVID-19 since March 2020. Under the National Vaccination Program, 111,148 people have received first doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, and 34.9% of the population are fully vaccinated. Government's decision to take classes online this new school year in light of the surge of COVID-19 cases is getting the thumbs up from the island's two main teachers' unions. President of the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union, Marianne Redmond, tells Barbados Today that she fully supports the move announced by Education Minister Santia Bradshaw on Tuesday.
Given the upsurge in COVID cases generally, and given the fact that the Delta variant is here, and that variant, children are now far more vulnerable to this variant as compared to the previous ones, as we see with the 114 children in isolation up to yesterday. We think that this is the safest method in which to resume our school year, or rather to start our school year on the 20th of September. It is the most effective way to ensure that we can start educating our children again, and doing so in an environment that offers them and all other school users, teachers, and ancillary staff a safer environment.
Meanwhile, President of the Barbados Union of Teachers, Pedro Shepherd, is also backing the move, but he has some concerns about students and teachers having access to devices.
We support, as it is now going online. It is not something that teachers wish, but it is something that we have no choice in right now because of the surge in COVID cases, and in particular the Delta variant. So if we are to do any teaching at all, it can only be done online, and therefore we support going online. But it is something that I would want the ministry to address in terms of its duration. Wherever we can get back to face-to-face in a safe environment, we will want to go that particular route. Between now and 20th of September, I believe the online rollout can go ahead. The challenge that we would have, or the challenges that we would have rather, was the devices for students. I believe more teachers would have. New teachers coming into the system now would probably be able to access devices that teachers who going on leave or whatever would return. Students should be able to utilize the devices they had before. There are some, of course, who would have returned damaged devices, so it means that the ministry over the next 2-3 weeks will have to source another set of devices to ensure that every single child has a device.
Barbados is now in a position to fully vaccinate another 15,000 of its citizens against COVID-19. This is as a result of a donation of 30,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine by the Government of Canada to the people of Barbados. The gift, which arrived at the Grantley Adams International Airport this afternoon, was handed over to Prime Minister Mia Motley by Charge d'Affaires and High Commissioner of Canada, Miss Anne Clemenson. In other news this Wednesday, the Royal Barbados Police Force is set to get a major boost in its crime-fighting efforts from the international police organization, Interpol. This was revealed by Executive Director of Police Services at Interpol, Stephen Kavanagh, at a brief ceremony today to mark the establishment of the Interpol Liaison Office here in Barbados. Kavanagh says local and regional law enforcement agencies will benefit significantly from its databases.
So part of my role here is to actually help the law enforcement and the partners around it understand how they get the best value out of Interpol. Because my job is no longer about me, my job is about supporting Colonel Jones, the Commissioner, the Minister, in making sure that they can be as effective as possible. And the reality is, my time in policing, the world has changed. Data, when you talked about forensics, when I joined the police, it was about fingerprints. Then DNA came on board. But now digital footprints, data, are the way that we will understand where those drug dealers, where those organised criminals, those money launderers, child abusers are sitting. And we have the data to connect Barbados to Korea to South Africa. And that's a unique opportunity, and it's an exciting one for the Royal Barbados Police Force.
The Barbados Defence Force has a new Chief of Staff. The official handover ceremony took place at St. Anne's Fort today. Executive Director of the Regional Security System, Arrington Ricardo Shurland, takes up the top post after being promoted from the rank of Captain to Commodore, the second highest attainable rank for a Barbados Coast Guard officer. Prior to taking over the leadership of the RSS in 2017, Commodore Shurland was Deputy Chief of Staff of the BDF with more than 3 decades of service in the military.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional happenings, there has been an alarming increase in COVID-19 infections among pregnant women in Trinidad. Word of this from Director of Women's Health, Dr. Adish Sirasram, who has advised that Pfizer vaccine is available to all pregnant women past the second trimester. More in this report from TTT News.
68 pregnant women have been infected with COVID-19 in the past week. Director of Women's Health, Dr. Adish Sirasram, says the figure jumped from 315 last week to 383 as of Monday. He reminds that the Pfizer vaccine has been available to pregnant women since last Wednesday and hopes they will seize the opportunity to get vaccinated.
Persons in the second half of pregnancy, those with comorbidities, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, asthma, tend to be the ones who may get more ill. Of the patients we've had so far, approximately 3% ended up in the HDU or ICU. Most of these would have been in the latter stages of pregnancy.
Dr. Sirasram says side effects experienced by pregnant women after taking the vaccine is not much different to that experienced by the general population.
On the international front, Hurricane Ida has caused widespread power outages across the U.S. state of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. More than 1 million people on the Gulf Coast are currently without electricity, and many are still stranded by flooding. Restoring power could take weeks as residents run low on drinking water. More in this report from Al Jazeera News.
Somebody help us, please.
They are completely desperate here.
We need help. Please, bro.
Ida tore out roofs and windows, ripped bricks out of walls, destroying lives and buildings in a few long hours. Now they are pleading.
We need y'all, please. Look at my building. If I wouldn't have got my mama from through here, we'd have been stuck in here. I left out here and water way up here. We need y'all. Somebody help us, please.
But where do you even begin? From the sky, it is just water everywhere. Roads, now rivers, they look like boats. But they're actually cars. Residents just have to hope the engine holds out. Almost all of the phones are down here.
Ever since this thing started, we have no communication with anybody.
Some are getting online to ask for help on social media, but here in La Place, just north of New Orleans, they are pretty much trapped. Jay owns 4 hotels. His 30 staff have been stranded inside for days. He can't reach them to see if they're okay.
That's news, but for the very latest, you can visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Capital Media HD, 99.3 FM.